Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you and welcome. Thank you all for coming today. I realise actually I'm probably the one that needs introducing. So I'm Lee Young and I'm the Managing Director at Dore & Rees. And me and my team took over, we actually bought Dore & Rees about 4 years ago. It came around, I knew Dore & Rees, I moved to that area 12 years ago. And I walked into Dore & Rees and I just fell in love with the place. It had such charm. It's in the beautiful and now very fashionable town of Frome in Somerset. And I knew Mark Rees very well. This business, in fact, what I should say, so it was established in 1868. In fact, the building it's in was built in 1866. So far as we know, this was the first business that moved into that building, and it's never left in all those years. So that's been in the same building in Frome since 1868. Anyway, I called Mark one day. I was thanking him. I think he'd referred a client to me in my previous job. And this was as we were creaking out of lockdown. I said, "So what are your plans?" He said, "Well, I'm turning the building into 2.5 townhouses." I just said, "Mark, how do I stop you? I've got to stop you doing that. How do I stop you doing that?" He said, "Well, you've got 2 weeks for ideas and suggestions." I went back to within 3 days, and we managed to sort of put something together. Well, actually, we agreed in about 4 days, and it took the lawyers 6 months to sort out that handshake. But we got there in the end. So we're thrilled to be here at Dore & Rees. And this. Slightly by chance, Katharine was very kindly, I was sort of tagging along. A friend of mine was going down to see the collection. I just sort of rocked up and she very kindly let me in as well. And we started to talk about this and this new project that she's now involved with, working with. And it was fascinating to me. And I'm sure, like everybody else, you just want to hear all about it and, see how it works as well. So we're all very intrigued. So I just want to say thank you, Katharine, for doing this. And Tuo, who's come all the way from California today to be here. So thank you both. I'll stop talking. Over to you guys, and I'll take the seat at the back.
Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to thank you, Liz, as well, because this talk is slightly off-piece for me. And I thought I'd just to start with explain a little bit, how it came about. And it's a series of serendipity, a series of coincidences, in fact, because 3 years ago, Teresa Canepa and I published and launched this book, which is called Leaping the Dragon Gate, really a history of 17th century Chinese porcelain told through my father's collection. And in November 2 years ago, OpenAI launched ChatGPT-3 on the world, and those two events are not connected. But 20 years earlier, in 2005, we had an exhibition in the Shanghai Museum, and 7-year-old Tuo was taken with his father, Gary, who's here, who's also a collector of Chinese porcelain, and that lit his spark and love for Chinese porcelain. He became a computer scientist, but kept interested in Chinese porcelain, and contacted me through eBay because I was selling some old catalogs, so he didn't know who was selling them. I think my eBay handle was something like Shulao 1450 or so. And we started talking, and I at the time had been working with some programmers trying to see if there were some ways that collectors could use computer science to improve the efficiency of managing their collections. And so we met, and he has been working in AI. And so we tried to see what it could bring to collectors in the research aspect. AI and art has been better known in the creation of works of art. And this is an artist humanoid called Ida, who is selling this week her works in Sotheby's, New York, and that god of AI is Alan Turing, with its minimum, its low estimate is $120,000. So we'll see what art AI in the creation will do. We're talking about in the research, and when you're researching a work of art, you've got three aspects that you go from. Firstly, the paperwork. It's the archives, the provenance, its commercial history, invoices, all the things to do with the paper, certificates of authenticity, if it's been published, etc. And then you have the scientific approach, so the chemical, technical analysis and those aspects. And then, of course, you've got the art historical. So all the aspects that relate to who was the artist, the style, the iconography, how it was produced, etc. And rather extraordinarily, you would think that we've gone for the third point of those three approaches in our work. And particularly because on that third aspect, there's always a lot of dispute between art historians themselves. So, if the experts can't agree, what hope is there for the AI? But we're not alone in our, presently the company, CEOs very kindly come today, called Hephaestus Analytical, which specializes in authentication and forensic analysis on all three of those approaches that I was talking about. And their aim is to eliminate forgery and misattribution in the art market, which I'm sure we'd all heartily support here. How easy it is in the world of Chinese porcelain. We have a multimodal approach, and they use AI, something called pictology, which uses machine learning on very high resolution photographs, and they compare the brush strokes, the spaces in between, the thickness of the paint, and these type of things, combined with the other aspects of studying the science, to come out with a way of authenticating mostly paintings. Case last year, which the Guardian dubbed the Battle of the AIs, when there were two rival approaches to, this was not Hephaestus, it was a group in Nottingham and Bradford who used mostly facial recognition processes. And they authenticated this. Raphael, 97% confidence was right. And then a company in Zurich came out with an 87% chance that it was actually not right. They were using different methods. And I'd like to read what Sir Timothy Clifford, former director of the National Gallery of Scotland, commented. He said, "I do rather feel strongly that mechanical means of recognizing paintings by major artists are incredibly dangerous. I've never contemplated the idea of using these AI things. I think they're terribly unlikely to be remotely accurate, but how fascinating." So it's clear that there are some extraordinary hallucinations, which I'm sure we've all seen. And somebody showed me recently this video of someone who had asked an AI bot to make a film about how the pyramids were made. And because there are so many theories that the giants built the pyramids, it's this incredible YouTube video of all these giants just building them. I mean, it's quite convincing, actually. Anyway, we have been armed with a good degree of caution. We have been working on experiments using AI on Chinese porcelain, and I wanted to explain what we're going to do today. Tuo will give an overview of where we are with AI, and particularly in VLM, visual language models, which is the recognition of images rather than just, and the creation of them, of large language models, which is the language. And then we'll explain how with Chinese ceramics, there's a particular problem being three-dimensional objects, there's cross-cultural issues, and there's language issues through the programming. And we want to show what important data is, and we're going to show a couple of source materials that we've been using that are the machines for our models. And then we're going to talk about the applications that our AI tools can bring. And to these three groups, to collectors, to traders, and to museums. So I will now pass over to Tuo.
Thank you very much. Glad to see so many people today. And before I go start, I want to ask a simple question. Anyone use ChatGPT in the past 2 years? Anyone have used ChatGPT in the past 2 years? Okay, I see so many hands. So actually, everything begins from like 2019, so approximately 5 years before. The first time we are talking about the large language model. And then since the launch of the GPT-3 approximately in 2021, we have witnessed the development of the large language model and machine learning. There nearly a new model coming up in every month. Even the past Sunday, the Apple just announced some recent features that how they can incorporate the ChatGPT in the upcoming iOS upgrade. So another update is every time you open the LinkedIn or open your stock news, you can see some new news related how the AI is accelerating the stock price, right? But how to build an LLM? How to build a model? So normally, we say a machine learning models is composed by two parts. The first part is the data. Data is the most important ingredient of our model. The other part is the model architectures. It's more like a neural networks. We just feed the model in there. We just feed the data into there. And then the model can learn the patterns of what inside of it to learn the language, to why the data is looking like that. And combine this two together, we can get LLMs, no matter what ChatGPT or Llama. Of course, it's a very high level speaking. So, very fortunately today, we have so many existing pre-trained model architectures like the Meta's Llama or the ChatGPT OpenAI. We do not need to do so much things on the model architecture anymore. We do not need to build from our scratch. But now data is the most important thing we need to think about. The data actually directly depends the quality of your LLM. Better known as garbage in, garbage out. So as just Katharine said, what is garbage out? Actually, we asked ChatGPT to create an image about the 17th century porcelain it is. But very frankly, right, in the 17th century, we do not have mobile devices or like television cables, something like that. So as I said, the data is always the #1 priority in the recent time of development in the machine learning. So now let's talk about what is the current model are working at. So we want to see what is the capability to understand the Chinese ceramic, how to interpret it, how to analyze it. And, oh, it's not working.
That works.
Okay. Now this is Kangxi or Shenzhi, right?
Oh, no, earlier. Yeah.
Earlier, okay. Yeah, something like that. Our art history is in here. So this is like a blue and white Wucai plate in here. So just assume I am art historians. How should I understand these things? So if I, at first glance, okay, I see this is a plate. I can see definitely there's a monkey, right? Everyone agrees on this, right? Okay. And then also there's a deer. There's maybe a butterfly, I don't know. Also a bird. Okay, peach. So what is the meaning of it? So actually in Chinese cultures, there's a thing called pang. What is doing as a pang is like in Chinese, one pronunciation can map to different characters. It's something really similar to the hieroglyphics in the Western cultures. As I said, I can see you, like this kind of wording here. So now let me pretend I am art historians again. So this is a monkey, right? They share the same, and then also there's a deer, and then there's a bird, and this is a wasp. Okay. The monkey share the same pronunciation as the Marcus. And also the deer share the same pronunciation as emolument. The bird for the noble rank, and the wasp for the comfort. So when we concatenate them together, it are representing 绝路封侯 in Chinese. So what is the meaning about it? And also, we cannot forget there's a pitch in there. So normally in the pitch, it represents the longevity. So when we concatenate them together, that's represent may you receive a higher rank and rewards, and also longevity. Is that correct?
Yes.
Always need to double check, right? So now let's say we just program it into 3 different tasks and see how the machine learning model can understand this. Okay, this is a jar from the Chicago Art Institution. And I think it's from Yongzheng period, Imperial 1. And the first thing is, what is the most significant elements on top of it? By the human eye, we can say this is a narcissus flowers, Nandinian berries, lyngee mushroom, and also rock, right? So we ask ChatGPT, what do you think is the most significant elements on top of this jar? It gives us this kind of answer. I know this maybe it's so tiny on the screen, but let me read it loud. So the first one is narcissus flower. The second one is Nandinian berries, lyngee mushroom, and the rocks. Okay. And the second question is, which symbolic meanings? So when you combine these features together, what does it represent? So we will go to detail about why we set up these options in the later. But just let you know, the ChatGPT think everything are representing for the longevity and good health. The third one is why you think it had these reasons, right? We want to know why he believed this is like this. This is a Guangqiu's answers by Dr. Ni Yibin in his database, and actually it's pretty matched to the GPT's pronunciation. Sorry, GPT's interpretation. And based on this, we give the state-of-art VLMs tons of data set, approximately 1,000 data sample to see how this performs. This is one example. This is like a Song Dynasty painting by Muchi in a Japanese imperial collection. Is drawing a Chinese Cambridge in here. So actually different models can give different answers based on its training or its pre-trained data crops. So ChatGPT say this is leaves. Some Chinese models say this is the bauxite. Actually, the ground truth is a Chinese leaf. So at least from the semantic similarity, everyone gives a really good answer. And also is do the symbolic matching. Some models say this is for more integrity. Some people say longevity. Some say family relationship, something like that. So this is like an example that how we process a data sample to the models and let it do the choice. Just feel free to interrupt me if you met any problems, okay?
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
When you're making these comparisons and then coming to a conclusion, you must be giving each aspect a certain number of points to say this is more likely based on prioritizing certain aspects from investigation.
Yes.
In other words, you use these facial recognition and you make that the most important aspect of your evaluation. You might give a different answer where you're using another aspect.
Yes.
Is that true?
Kind of true, I have to say. So actually, this is a really good question. So you're welcome. So based on this, we give the models 2 different evaluation metrics. The first one is, as you said, the absolute evaluation matrix. We say whether the word is perfectly matching to our ground truth answers. Maybe the direct face recognition, as your example said.
But there's always exceptions to the rule.
Exactly. So we also design the closeness evaluation. It's based on the semantic similarity about between the words and its given answers. So in a very high level speaking, each word has a really similar semantic embeddings. So we are just comparing the cosine similarity in the mathematical perspective to see whether these 2 answers are similar or not similar. So I hope this answers your questions. Part of a list, right? Okay, yeah. Feel free to give me more answers after the talk. So you can see actually the result is not very good. The absolute accuracy like only around 34% or 40%, something like that. The closeness is like around less than 60. In most of the Chinese mathematic examinations, that's represented F, fail. And also we do the symbolic matching. The best accuracy is like around 40. To make you better understand what is the accuracy standing for, we recruit 5 young generation peoples from Chinese contemporary society. They do not have any background in the art histories. We just let them to do pure understanding. Actually, the result is much, much better than the VLM, but during our experiment, we found they just simply guessed for the results. But anyway, it's better than the VLMs. So why the reason is much worse in here? So we give you some example of the failures. So out of battery, okay. Okay, so the blue text actually represents the language mismatching error. We ask all the questions in English, but it gives us the answers in Chinese. This is a very serious errors. It's like means the language is mismatch. The secondly is hallucination. So I think in the Chinese culture, there's very famous puns like the peach, like the bat. Bats represent the fortune, peach represent the longevity. As long as the model do not know what is going on here, they will say, okay, this is the peach, this is the bat. So combine these two erroneous and also the low accuracy that I showed above, that actually pointing to a conclusion is that the standard VLMs do not have the sufficient knowledge in here. As I said, the data is always the key for the accuracy. Now, why the accuracy is low? Because they do not have so many knowledge inside of it. How do we deal with it? Together with some world-class researchers, we aim to solve this problem leveraged by the retrieval augmented generation. So what is this? So normally it's more like an open book exam. So when, as human, I met some problems, what should I do? I look up for the books, I look for the internet, I look up some material that is outside my original knowledge. The same thing is for here. We give some external database, maybe the book, the textbook, or some database, and then we build this as an external database in here. So let's now use this example again. Let's say ask ChatGPT, what is in here? So what will the retrieval augmentation doing? The first thing they did is like, instead of directly answer the questions, it will first search for the most relevant item inside of this external books we've given in here. So it's more like as human, we are searching for the answers. And when they find the most similar or they find the most confident incurred inside of the external books, they will combine their own knowledge together to give you a more competent answer. So this is the example that I give here. Maybe this is so tiny for here, so let me read a little bit. So the key virtual element inside of this dish is monkey, deer, peach tree, the interaction between monkey and deer, and insects that possibly be a wasp. So when you combine these two together, it means may you attain high official rank, prosperity, and long life. That means the retrieval augmentation that actually is working and give you much, much more confident results as long as we've given them a really reliable external database for them to do the analysis and then do the lookup. As I said, it's more like an open book exam. Okay. So any questions in here? Yes.
When it's trying to retrieve data from these external sources.
So when?
When the VLM is taking information directly from these textbooks or external sources, does it effectively, I mean, not just copy and paste, but is there a sense at which it cites its sources, or is it just saying, here's the information I now know, and then putting out information?
That depends on how you set up the models. Most of the time, when they do the retrieval augmentations, in like, for example, ChatGPT, they will say, I'm searching through the database right now, and then they will tell you, like, this answer is generated by the mic. It's generated by the RAG, or it is not generated by RAG. It's only using my own knowledge in here. Yes, sure.
How do you interrogate, say, for instance, the book, Katharine's book? Does it read the book, or do you actually have to input information from the book into the AI?
Oh, it's not doing the training in here. It's just purely read. So every time we give them an inquiry, more like a question, you just go over the book really rapidly to find the most similar things in here, and then just do the retrieval.
Fed the book.
Yes.
Not particularly.
So someone's really all the way through there?
Yes, always goes through. Yes.
Final mistakes.
The answer is quite specific to the input that you give. So do you have to say, please search the books, this and that, or does it?
So that depends how you train the model, how you fine-tune the model. So actually they have some default settings. So with our research, we always ask the model to search from an external database first before it gives its own answers. the external databases. Because we already know that with its own knowledge, it cannot give you a confident access.
So you have to tell them to look.
Yes. So we give them as a default setup. Yes. Any more questions? Okay. Okay. So actually, we make it open to public. We just fit the ChatGPT with the knowledge about this book and also the Dr. Ni's database and some material that Katharine will go over in the next sections. So everyone can have a try. But before you try, for all the talk today, we compile it into an academia paper. This is under review in the Nature Communication right now. But we already make the preprint online. You can go over it and read it. If you have any questions, email me. And the link of the ChatGPT, the Palm Rebus AI agent is inside this paper. So as long as you open it, you will find the link. Now, let's go to another section.
We have different AI agents that perform different functions. So what Tuo has just been speaking about, what we call the Palm Rebus agent, and that has been trained on the research of Dr. Ni Yibin. Many of you here will know exactly who he is because he's become the sort of go-to person for recognizing stories on Chinese porcelain. And he has been working since 1987 on creating this database that has thousands of images of objects, but multimedia, not porcelain. And he's, it's the Palm Rebus querying system. In fact, there are 2 websites which we can cite later. And he, you can search it according to the type of object that you're the element that you're looking for. And he has divided the auspicious wishes into 7 main categories, which we analyze to see the propensity of the different types of wish. And interestingly, success in the imperial exams came out as the top wish of reasons to, wish people well, or blessings, longevity and general sort of happiness and joy were the top 3. But he has already divided his database into these 7 categories. So if you look at the database, you will see an example of a particular wish. In this case, you see a person with pointing to the sun. You'll have the translation in English and Chinese in the pinyin, and the explanation of why this pun is relevant with the linguistic, the combination with the characters and the linguistic joke. And this image here, it comes quite often on Chinese porcelain. This is a Zhonghe Tang piece in the British Museum. And actually, the group of Zhonghe Tang, which I was always trying to say was imperial, Professor Peter Lam was saying that you're not going to be making this wish to have success in imperial examinations if it's an imperial piece. So that particular scene has a particular relevance. I think we're going to just show here how our Palm Rebus AI agent worked. So Tuo is copying into the ChatGPT model that we have, that image. She's just not asked it any question. And you see it says it's searching my knowledge. This is the indicator that it's actually looking into our trained information. It's not looking in the universe. And here it comes out with, be coming out with the right thing. This is alive,
You see, here's the option here. Menu promotion to be imminent.
By pointing to the sun. Sorry, there was a question.
Do you have to have permission? I know in the case of Yibin, of course, you'll have all his information, but with other books, do you have to have permission, or can you just go into the
Well, in this particular case, we have trained this model on his research. I think it's a case by case. I mean, I think I suppose there's a hope at some time, it's possibly impossible, that you would have a kind of an AI agent of everything that would be able to do every single type of question. But actually, if you segregate them into the different models performing different tasks, trained on different data, you will get more accurate results. And yes, I think permissions are required. You can't just feed in any old thing. I mean, if things are out of copyright.
Otherwise, it's like a cyber steal, right?
Yeah. Yibin is watching us from Shanghai as we speak, so and has been very, very important to the project.
Anyone access this data?
This database is yes,
It's open to the public, as I said.
it's still being tested and developed, but I mean, you can see this is it performing. It works pretty well. ChatGPT.
And for the database, you do not need to access from the ChatGPT.
But if you want to go into our AI agent, you have to go through ChatGPT. You need ChatGPT 4 in order to use it, so you have to pay. $20 a month. So that was an earlier example of doing the same thing. The second database that we are now working on is my database of dated porcelain that we published about 450 without images in the back of the book. And so far I've got now about 500 dated Chinese porcelain objects between about 1500 and 1800. And you can see here, this is the ratios of objects of different dates. And obviously, dated pieces are the anchor points for evaluation. This is going to be an incredibly important way of relating an object to the objects that we know have a date, if we are convinced that those are authentic objects. And these are just some images from the database, which at the moment, it's all in Excel with about I'd say probably about 80 columns of information. And we're planning to put that online as well. So this is going to be a online resource that we're working on. But you'll be able to do things like this. Show me dated pieces from a date. Show me pieces that have a particular wish, if those are the ones we have. So this is what we're talking about. The data is the critical fuel for these models to work. So next question, what can these tools bring? And we've divided it into categories. So we're talking about the institutions, the museums, for the visitor experience, for collectors, and for the art market, both the buyers and the sellers, the auction houses, as well as the buyers. Am I handing it to you now?
No, you can.
Oh, is it still me? Oh, damn. Okay, so museums and galleries. When you go to a museum, let's say the Silk Road exhibition, you can buy the catalogue, but you're not going to read it before, as you go around the exhibition. We imagine that you will be able to have an AI agent trained on all the data that has been amassed during the preparation of that exhibition, that will answer any questions that you'd like to know. And whether you're asking, what's the oldest piece, or what's the biggest piece, or, can you tell me more about this object? We're not the only ones who thought about this. There's a company called Art Vista. It is basically telling you the same thing. Scan a picture, ask it a question. It'll tell you lots of things. It's mostly trained on very famous works of art. I put in this pot, and it came out with that it was a painting dominated by a deep blue color and a black shape stretching across the canvas with an animal finger. It looks as if there's a cold, harsh feeling to the painting, as if the viewer is witnessing the birth of a natural disaster. It's having a good old laugh. Very recently, a Canadian independent researcher, Jonathan Talmy, I think he's called, has published this online, and it's called The Living Museum. And he has used the data from 1.2 million objects in the British Museum. And you can really curate your own collections and query objects. So it's doing what we're talking about. It's saying basically talk to an artifact, ask it questions. I asked about this ewer, what it thought about that. Greetings, curious visitor. I'm a porcelain ewer from the Wanli period of the Ming Dynasty. My body is adorned with vibrant dragons, blah, blah, blah. I said, what is your British Museum number? Ah, you're interested in my museum identity. My British Museum number is A, blah, 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 blah. You got it very right. Would you like to know how it got into the museum? Yes, please. I'm delighted you're curious about my journey. You purchased by the British Museum from a renowned collector named George Eumophopolis. He had an eye for Chinese art and amassed an impressive question. It's pretty good. I asked it about this piece, which it called a bowl from China. Greetings, curious visitor. I'm a fragment of a Ming Dynasty porcelain bowl. And I've asked, are these shards from one object or several? Ah, excellent question. As far as I know, I'm just a single shard, a lonely fragment that was once a complete bowl. It's possible there were other people, blah, blah, blah. It's very, very good, but they've just scraped the data that's publicly available. Is this now you? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Then you already see two failure examples, but now how to make a really good AI curators. So we all agree we need to have threefold effort in here. The first is accessible. Is no matter what you want to use your phone, right? Every day now everyone is obsessed with the mobile device. You can either talk to your phone, you can either make cameras and use the camera to hold it, and no matter what you want to ask, you just take pictures, or you just type, right? The first thing is accessible. The second one is informative. You want to make sure that the answers should have a lot of details in that, instead of just repeat what is the title of it, or how it's made, just like the previous failure example shows, right? The last one is a trustworthy. It definitely should give you a reliable answers. If you put a Volkswagen's picture in here, you cannot say, okay, this is a paintings, right? This is definitely ceramic. So all the three, when you combine this together, it's not a single-fold effort. For the first one, accessible and informative, it can be easily achieved by the AI scientist as long as you have so much information, as long as you have really good engineering background. But for the trustworthy and informative, you need to make sure that the data is correct, the information is correct, that which we definitely need our history like Dr. Ni and Katharine here to help us to filter out what is going on here. So the cooperation is always the key. So as an example, we're really honored to present the My AI Curator in the Butler Museum. So next time when you visit Dorset, and if you want to visit the Butler Museum, you can see the new AI curators in here. So definitely you can really easily accessible by your mobile device as long as you download the ChatGPT app. You can ask what kind of question you encountered during your visit, such as what is the 17th century ceramic, what are the dishes talking about, what are this roll wagon talks about. So before I talk, maybe I just give you an example in here.
So this is just the images he's taken. And obviously one of the problems with porcelain is it's three-dimensional. His model knows that this is from the same object. So it is trained to recognize that if things overlap, it is one object. So imagine that he's in the museum, he's photographed maybe just one side of this, and he's now put this into into his ChatGPT. So this is called the Butler Museum Curator. So it's a different AI agent. And sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So before we start, does anyone know what is the story on top of that rose wagon? Just free to speak. Okay. So no matter what kind of style the answer it shows the same answer, is that the artwork you are looking at is a row wagon bus, and the story is 冰激文牛, right? I prefer this one. What is 冰激文牛, right? Could you tell me more?
So the first time he just pasted those objects in without a question. And now he's saying, can you tell me more about the story?
Known for his wisdom and commitment to the people. One day, while his way to court, Bingji encountered a distressed ox by the roadside. The scene surprised his entourage. It was unusual for high-rank officials to concern himself with such seemingly trivial matters. Blah, 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 blah. And the vast align with the late Ming dynasty's artistic focus on the narrative and moral themes, adding both aesthetic appeals and education value to these pieces. It also reflects the ideals of Confucianism, where virtuous conduct and human governance are permanent. Is that correct? Okay. Our historians say this is correct.
How would I know what page it was on in your book, or what pages?
The thing is, it's munching the whole book, and then it's going through that, creating a prompt to the normal ChatGPT, then makes this lovely, flowing text. So it's not. Could you ask it what page on the book?
So I think, but for these questions, the Bingji New story, actually, as I told before, the rank is composed by both the book knowledge and his own knowledge. So this part actually is his own knowledge. He searched from the internet, like us search on Google.
So is this part of the ChatGPT your collection?
So that AI agent is trained on basically our book
Yes.
and the World Wide Web.
So it's
And
Actually adding to it from outside the book?
we've made 3 at the moment agents, better at the moment, to ask specific questions to specific agents.
Would it help if all of us fed all our things that we know in there?
So to increase the confidence of the answers, to eliminate the uncertainty of it, we just shrink the size of the data and give the most relative data to the AI curators so they can provide more confidence answer to that. And if you want the model to become a more general model, you want to give them more books in here. But for this purpose, we want it exactly to become an expert in the Butler collection, same as Katharine. So similarity on the Butler collection. So this is the purpose of it. That totally depends on your purpose.
Can I follow up with this question? As users, and they upload our own books or materials, or we have to do this through your end?
That depends on how much engineering background you have, right? So if you are a really good AI scientist or a software engineer, you can easily do doing that. But most of the time, I think if you trust me, we can cooperate, right? Okay. So actually, this is the answers that I just showing before. So the first slide is what is on top of that Volkswagen. This is like, could you talk me more about that stories? So yeah, perfectly. The demo looks great. So the second part is for the collectors. For the collectors, most of the time we want to management what is in our hand, right? And how we doing that? We no matter using the collector management software, or we just use our own Excel. But actually, it's really, you need a lot of effort to do that. You need to organize what is going on and organize the price where you buy it. And the other thing is like it only will be constrained by your own knowledge in here. But actually, with the power of the AI, you can speed up your process. So this is an invoice and example that my father bought like around half years before. So why I use my father's example, because other one do not agree, I use their examples. So just put this invoice and the detailed image to the AI agent, and the AI agent actually can read the invoice on top of it. They know which auction I attend, what price I bought, and they know what the shape of the box it is, what is going on in here. And they can easily find a similar item in the public auctions or the coming sales with the public record. And also, it can generate reports and links for the objects. For example, how many pieces I buy in the 2023, like approximately 20 years before. And also show me all the pieces I own for the Kangxi MOX, or tell me the pieces I should have in my dining room, etc., etc. You can ask all of the questions, just like you have your own collector agents aside with you, but everything will be very, very low price compared to really hire an agent.
We wanted to talk about what it could do for museums, what it could do for collectors in helping out with managing their system. And this is for the actual market. When you're looking into an object, what you want to do is to ascertain what the right price is, whether you're a buyer or seller. You can use Google Image at the moment to find similar objects, but the AI agents will be able to be much more sophisticated than that, and will be able to eventually go through all the particular provenances. This isn't something that we've done, but with the online catalogs from the auction houses, but on top of that, it's imaginable that you will be able to scan old catalogs and be able to find objects both through visual search and also keywords. And as we've shown, be able to study the art historical background and help in that way to provide a price and show benchmarking. However, we wanted to, in answer to the question about whether anyone, should be thinking about their career moves, we have seen that connoisseurship, which I think Dominic Jelinek has said, it's an instinct derived from experience and an informed eye. And I think it'll be a very, very long time before we're all completely without a job. And there's a very exciting, interesting, which I'm sure everyone here will be fascinated to see, object that is coming up for sale very shortly. This is a brush spot, very bad photograph because it's from mine, which is in the Ashmolean Museum. And in Sotheby's in 1992, a very similar one came on the market. And those of you who remember my father remember that he had quite a strong feeling about a number of fakes. And he didn't like it. And it was actually after his discussion with him, it was withdrawn. And last year in Bonhams, another very similar one turned up on the market. I was quite excited to see it. And I actually went to Paris to have a look at it. And it had a sticker saying that it had been in Christie's in 2014. So I looked online, and the online catalogue went straight from, well, it basically skipped a number. It went from lot 3246 to 3248. So it had either been withdrawn or hadn't sold. Bonhams decided that they didn't actually like it and withdrew it before the sale. But lo and behold, it's turned up in Christie's in a couple of weeks' time. You can buy this piece in Hong Kong. And so I think that the human is quite indispensable. In this case, there are 3 brush pots. They are the one in Bonhams last year and the one in Christie's, it's the same piece. The other 2, they're different. They have almost identical scene, which is quite unusual for an object of this quality and unusual decoration. I mean, it's very rare that on the really exceptional pieces that you get identical decoration. So it's quite odd, and I think it was that made my father believe in 1992 that it wasn't right. I have to say, it's hard to say what it is. It's a very, very unusual object. But the differences are very hard to see. And you don't get so many images online. So it's not necessarily that the VLM, the agent, will be able to see them all and compare them. And so won't easily be able to find the other similar objects. Online at the moment, if a lot has been withdrawn, it's no longer on, it's actually withdrawn from the websites. And anyway, experts don't always agree. So, what I believe is hang on. I thought, well, I think I did have another slide. Not another slide?
This is a lot.
Okay. Well, what I believe is that the AI is providing us with increasing amounts of information that we can choose to ignore or accept, but it's opening the doors to worlds that it's quite hard for us to necessarily have access to. However, there will be, caveat emptor. We must always query it for ourselves, and like we will argue about whether or not objects are real or fake, we must come to our own conclusions. Just to recapitulate what we have actually produced is we have worked on these two AI agents, the pun rebus agent, which will hopefully be able to eventually look at objects and tell you what the meaning of it is, specifically, obviously, Chinese art. And secondly, the museum curator object. The work we're doing for collectors, for collection management systems, we've just started work on. But it looks very exciting because at the moment there are lots of softwares on the market for collectors where they're very expensive and they're quite complicated. And we that just on an Excel sheet you'll be able to find out anything you want from your collection and also have the opportunity of scanning your invoices and uploading the information very quickly. So that is then the end. So thank you. And these are our contacts. Thank you very much. So any more questions? Yes. Anita.
I'm trying to be very quick. I think for narrative themes and the pun rebus, but it would also be good if way of seeing where you can show different photographs, images, if things have been BI'd in auctions. And so the one back through, if damage case of brush box, I wasn't quite sure. The one coming up in Hong Kong, I'm suggesting
I'm suggesting we all need to discuss with each other what we believe about it. And then we might recognize some other pieces from that sale that were withdrawn from the one in Bonhams.
And there's no way of getting into withdrawn, not withdrawn, when images are hidden because they had been BI. There's no way you being able to search.
So what I was saying is that, we imagine that in an ideal world, all information would be there and we could query it with anything. I mean, obviously, if things are online, they're more accessible for the model to look into. It can equally potentially scan auction catalogs, which has that information, and you could tell it that if it's in the catalog and not online, chances are it's been bought in or withdrawn. I mean, the question about the provenance, of course, now we have a lot of auction houses, and the amount of data that they have online is varied, and of course there are, decades and even almost centuries catalogs that are not online, and those eventually they will all be scanned and they will all be available. I mean, the people are doing it now already, so that's.
Does it keep a store of everything it's scraped off the World Wide Web, or is it just taken in the instant?
Just take in any instance, yeah. Because just imagine, because every day you have tons of the input incurred. If you store all of them, if you use all the RAM on this planet, you cannot store it, So I think for most of the cases, just cache a little bit and then just delete it. And also, this is a way to protect the privacy.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, if you have items which are BI and it could go just focus on learning which items go into the auctions while they're going on, then it wouldn't matter if the auction house removed the BI lock.
If you then made a specific agent for provenance of Asian art, I mean, if you imagine, this is one sector of the entire auction world, which is going back decades, you would make a specific agent trained on that data, and that is then conceivable that it could compare what it finds online with what it knows is in the data it's been trained on. Oh, hang on, I saw Ninka was just asking, so.
It's a wonderful idea that mind boggles, and it's really trigger our imagination of what's possible. It's actually huge, but that was my question again. I circle back to it. How can we all trigger these? There's so many people with a lot of knowledge to growing in a responsible way a database, proper knowledge, sort of certified knowledge, as it were. So how can we contribute to making this thing grow?
That is another great question. So actually, I think when you want to have something to success, when you talk about to a computer scientist, they will tell you that the key to success is so-called open source, right? You open source your community, and everyone who had charm or had enthusiastic to contribute, you just contribute then. So I think this is what we want to do in the so-called AI agent program as well. So after our website going up, if you want to contribute, we are welcome to contribute, and you just push whatever you want to push into here, maybe some data samples or maybe some like the provenance history, whatever, and it will be sent to the community, and I think we will have some people to check the validation of it, and then I think this is the part that you can participate into.
And then begs the next question, how do you prevent the faking industry from taking this all up and refining their incredible skills into even better skills?
My father used to tell a story that Julian Thompson used to give a lecture every year in Sotheby's, Hong Kong, and on how to, tell the fakes. And he said, and there was always a group of Chinese in the back of the room taking notes. And next year those failings weren't anymore in the market. I mean, I think, the arms race of keeping in front of the fakers is extremely difficult, and I believe eventually really we're going to resort to science, so forensic testing and provenance. Unfortunately, I think the connoisseurship aspect of that is going to be more difficult because they are getting so good in this particular field. I think a lot of people here will believe the same.
But I think follow up to that question, from my perspective, even though I'm not an art historian, right? But I think the fake and the real are actually a twofold effort. You have more fakes, more high quality fakes, and your evaluation skills are it's much better, right? For example, in the Republic period, you have a lot of fake Kangxi, but today we can easily recognize they are from Republic, right? And actually, this is a way to push the boundaries of evaluation more further. So this is more like one goes up, the other one goes another step up, right? Yeah.
I was just wondering about Sada.
It's really about condition. For example, Shanghai have the price also influenced by the conditions. How can you train the conditions or the object, the paradise conditions? We call this word.
I think that is problematic because it tends to be that the condition report is not, certainly not on old catalogues, and printed catalogues don't have the condition report. So, I mean, I think that is another step that you won't be able to, on the benchmarking, that will be a factor that won't be easily. I mean, everything's possible theoretically in the future, but in just terms of scraping, I think that will be complicated. I don't know if you agree the same. Yes, we've got this huge online community who's asking questions as well. Which, is there any question there that you want to answer? Or?
There's a curator from V&A Museum. He's really nice, and he provided a new database that composed by more than 10,000 annotated images. So I think, thank you very much, Hongxing, and let's keep in touch. Yes.
Just a question here. We've had a hand going up a lot.
Drill a little bit into the pan rebus agent. About the accuracies. If I gave you the Percival David collection, all the images from the BM, right, excluding the monochrome ones, all the ones which tell stories, right, what fraction would you be able to, using your edge, be able to infer with a reasonably high confidence scores the story about what they're about? That's what I'm trying to get at.
I don't know the data scope of what you said, but that purely depends on the data scope, actually. And so my confidence is definitely above 40%.
That's average.
That is, no, this is like the lowest estimation. But I think the accuracy will be around 40% to 80%, depending on the data scope. Because I know in the British Museum, most of the items, they are not the 17th century pan rebus related items. They're more like the imperial court taste item, right? So yes, as the Katharine example showing that, for the imperial state one, most of the imperial state items, they do not involve any pan rebus on top of it. The emperor do not want to go to the examination because he's already become the highest rank officials on this planet. So he do not need to point into the sun to say, I want to be on the higher rank anymore.
Case, there's, as you say, I mean, there's a lot of monochromes in the PDF, and a lot of the other objects have dragons and lotuses and peaches and these sort of things, quite simple. So I would say in that case, probably will be 90%. I think it wouldn't have any trouble with those at all. In terms of sort of general recognition, there are two things. There's, particularly of this period, you have the pan rebuses, which are general auspicious wishes that you have many types of. And then you have the historical scenes. And we haven't trained our data set on our pan rebus agent on historical scenes. And that is the next step that we have to, because there are many stories, and they're told in many different ways, and they are recognizable too. So that is the next step.
But today you have a try. I know upstairs there's a really nice jar with dragons. I think like the star items in the Dorian Reed's upcoming auctions, they are painting the dragons on the neck. If you take a picture and ask the pan rebus agent about it, they will tell you that there's a dragon on top of it, and dragon represent the power of the emperor, something like that. So I think if you consider this as a correct answer, I'm agree on this as well. I think Katharine will agree that dragon is a symbol of the power.
Probably you will rank for.
Yeah, and if you think this is like a correct, then I will say the accuracy will be around 80% to 90%, because most of the imperial taste items, they will use very easy symbols instead of as Katharine said, instead of very complicated pan rebus, because the emperor do not need that, right?
5 years from now, where would you like to see this initiative? How you define success, and what is the roadmap?
Do you want me to do that? 5 years from now, where are we?
Oh, where are we? Okay, that is a really good question, and I think within the 5 years, I think first one is really the most easily to achieve is the AI curators for all of the museums, right? Next time, maybe 5 years later, you can hold your phone to the British Museum as long as no matter what kind of question you have, you can ask here. You do not need to hire a private tutoring for you anymore. You can just use your private phone as a way to do the tutoring, no matter for the African art, Egyptian art, or the Chinese art. You can answer all of the questions you have. That's the first thing that I think the most achievable one. The second one is for the collector side. Like for the management system, we try to give our first demo in the next March. So if you're interested in it, you can email me, join the waiting list. And for the art market, well, I think this is one is the most complicated because it involves a little bit of legal problem in here. We do not know whether the auction house is happy about it or not. But at least in our current movement, everything is open to public. Most of the information is public information. So I think the next demo will be like around next year, May. So as I said, if you are really interested, just email me and I can join you with the waiting list.
Is the user interface just the ChatGPT?
No, I think in the next phase, there's definitely no need to register through the ChatGPT. I would think we will have our own AI model that you can easily register with.
Have you thought of using blockchain for the authentication?
So that depends on how you think about the role of the blockchain. So normally when we talk about the blockchain, we talk about the privacy, right? So that depends on how you think about your privacy it is. For the museum part, there's no privacy. You just go in there, all the item is public. As long as you buy the ticket, you can view it, right? There's no privacy involved in here. But for the collector software and art market ones, it can involve blockchain. That depends on how you demand on the privacy. So if you want to discuss, I can give you more content. But
we probably need to wrap up though, because I think there's a lot of people needing to go to the next place. So you've got our emails to contact us, and otherwise, thank you very much.